Thanks for the invitation here. And as you said, my name is Tal. I'm co-founder of a company called Backfeed, together with the time field with Tal Serphos, who I assume some of you already know. And my talk is about decentralizing collaborations, or cultivating the non-administrative coordination. And what you can see here, right? You can't see almost anything, is patterns created by a flight of a flock of starlings. And if you know this kind of flight, it creates amazing patterns. And these patterns, coordinated flight, is occurring although it's obvious that none of the birds actually tell anything to the birds around it. And it's governed by other simple laws. Usually when I talk about what we do, I have to start with why decentralization is good. Luckily, I think this audience doesn't need this kind of introduction. But although we are all aware that what impact decentralization can bring to about every aspect of our lives as human beings on this planet, still, even while creating or building decentralized applications, we are all still working while using command and control methods. We still try to find the best ways how to tell the people we work with what they should do and manage everything that happens around us. And if we look at nature, we see that there are better ways to do that. We call that incentivizing acknowledgement. Many creatures, for example, like ants, can have millions of individuals coordinate themselves just by way of incentivizing the right actions from all the rest of the creatures around them. So we are trying to find a way to better collaborate together and co-create things in a way of incentivizing the correct actions or the right actions that will benefit the whole group, other than managing the collaboration and controlling it. And an example of that, you can already see, and thanks again for a great talk, fits here exactly. The Bitcoin brought several innovations to our life. One of them is the blockchain, the public decentralized ledger, which Ethereum actually looked at and said, well, we can write much more than just an entry to that ledger. We can write scripts and code, and we can make this public ledger into a huge public world computer. And we are looking at another innovation, the mining innovation, which Bitcoin introduced, which actually incentivizes a large group of people to validate transactions on that network, that actually incentivizes the network to exist. And we are looking at this kind of mechanism and ask why incentivize only a single action. What has been done with Bitcoin is that a huge network of miners, of validators of that network, of the security of the network, was bootstrapped from nothing. Just the right incentivization was created. We gave the right incentives for these people to act and to invest in that security, and the network emerged from that. Today, it is estimated about $750 million per year are invested into securing the Bitcoin network. And again, just by incentivizing the right action. Now imagine that instead of incentivizing only securing the network, we could incentivize any other action, like writing code, creating UI, UX, taking care of legal barriers, lobbying Bitcoin, etc. We could have had a much larger growth than what we have at the moment, and much less problems in that sense as well. We can also take it one step further and ask what we could do if we could incentivize other things that we value inside our community, okay? Like reducing our ecological footprint. And there's a good reason why Bitcoin only gave incentives to mining, to securing the network, and that is because this is something that we can easily verify in an algorithmic manner. And if we want to incentivize any generic action whatsoever without first defining it, then the only way to actually do that, I think is obvious, is using human evaluations. Having said about the judge, there are things that a machine cannot judge beforehand, and we have to have our input put into that. And what you should ask now is, can we actually incorporate human evaluations inside such a system while keeping that system anonymous and keeping it resilient to attacks and keeping it scalable. And the very short answer for that, because this is a short talk, is that yes, we can do that. And that's what we are trying to do in Backfeed, and we're trying to implement our protocol of incorporating human evaluations and use it in some use cases. So, in a nutshell, what we are building is still a trustless system. Okay? These are protocols that still create a trustless system, incorporating the human evaluations into it. Inside the groups, inside the network, what we create when there's a group working together to some end collaborating on some kind of project, we create alignment within that group. One of the problems in co-ops, especially when they are scaling up, is that you have to invest more and more energy into reaching consensus within that group. So our protocol is constantly creating consensus and constantly giving more influence over the project to the people that represent the entire community better. And I'll talk about what representing better means. While we're doing that, we're trying to keep the diversity of ideas, of intentions of the people inside that group. And these two things, alignment and diversity, usually contradict each other, and we're trying to find a way to make the best of both worlds. And the whole protocol is based on open source ideas, of course. And we take it for granted that today, most of the value comes from the network itself. That's why our protocol is best used in decentralized applications. If you take Facebook, for example, and you get all its code, it still doesn't mean you have Facebook in your hand. Facebook is the hundreds of millions of users that actually use that. So the value here is not the code that sits at Facebook Inc., it's rather the network. And that's why we think this world why such collaborations can work while still being open source and sharing all the information and making it visible. Because if there are 1,000 people working on a project together, then even if another person takes all their code, all the resources, you still can't catch up with them. As long as you keep that project open, let anyone join in and get a fair share of their contribution to the project, then everybody will join in and follow that project. And finally, what we are creating is a kind of framework for DCOs or DAOs, for decentralized collaborative organizations, that we see as alternatives to present-day corporations and governmental systems. This is the part where there's much more text on the presentation. You can read it later, and I'll go over this in a much quicker manner. Again, in a really simplifying our protocol, what we actually do, we define a decentralized collaboration by creating a token that is exchangeable for a service. That's the basis. That's the basic for any such collaboration. So as long as there is a service and there's a token that you can use a service with, you can collaborate around that service. And that service can be anything, of any kind. In the Bitcoin example, only the Bitcoin allows you to write a line on the ledger. That's what gives the value to the Bitcoin. In Ethereum, for example, if you have Ether, you can create calculations. So you have a token that allows you some service and that brings you value. And that token can be, you can get those tokens in two ways. One, you can buy it from the system. So you pay some kind of digital currency and you get the tokens. The funds that enter the system belong to the entire community, to the entire project that's working on it. The other way that you can get those tokens is by contributing something to that community and let the community decide what the value of your contribution was. So once you contribute to the project, to the organization, to the group, you get evaluated and you get rewarded with tokens according to what the community thinks. And what you get, another thing that you can get as a contributor is, other than those tokens, you also get reputation. Reputation is another form of currency in that matter, but that one is the currency that allows you to influence the organization. So if we look at the funds that over time are collected by users actually using the service inside the fund, those funds are always exchangeable for the tokens. So let's say I'm a programmer or programmed code for some project. I got rewarded by tokens from the project. I can exchange those tokens for the cash, the digital currency that's inside the fund. I give the tokens back, burn them, and get my digital cash for that. The reputation, I use it in a different way. The reputation is used to evaluate contributions of the system. And how they use it to evaluate things? First of all, the only way to get reputation is to contribute. So I can't buy reputation from the system in a simple manner. And once I have reputation and someone else contributes a contribution, I can say my opinion on that. I can evaluate that contribution, and together with that bid my reputation on my evaluation. And the whole community does that. Part of the community does that. And at some stage, I look at the distribution of the people that have evaluated this contribution, and I let reputation, other than deciding the value of the contribution and rewarding the contributor, I also let reputation flow between all the evaluators. Those who evaluated in a different manner than the community, either too high or too low, lose reputation for those who evaluated what the community actually decided, and those who evaluated earlier as well. So what happens over time is that the people that evaluate better, that can evaluate the value of contributions earlier than other people and estimate the correct average or median that the community will evaluate, they gain more and more reputation and are being able to affect the system. Anyone can rise in reputation, anyone can lose reputation. It's a dynamic character, and the ones influencing the organization today can exchange those roles later on. Now, as people that contribute, if you contribute to this group and you get evaluated and get a lot of tokens of reputation, you're incentivized to contribute more. If you're losing, then you again incentivized not to contribute more and leave the system. So there's a constant flow of people into the system and out of the system, out of this group, according to the alignment. So up until now, I showed you a system in which there is very strict alignment. If you are different from what the organization deems as worthy, then you get less reward and you are left out of the system. So this is just the alignment mechanism. The other mechanism that creates diversity is the ability to fork such a project at any time. So let's say, I showed you before the simple bell curve. Let's say the community thought about some kind of contribution that it's half of the community thought it's thought very low of that contribution, and another half thought very high of that contribution. First of all, those evaluating the middle are also losing reputation because they haven't evaluated like the rest of the community. But it's obviously there are two different opinions here. And if this is a systematic manner, if many evaluations are being evaluated in the same way, that a certain group evaluates it differently from another group, this is in a way an indicator for a fork. And those groups can fork their resources and continue as different projects, and later on merge as well. So the alignment is kept inside each project, but every project can fork and diversify into different ways. And in that manner, evolution takes care of what's the right way and what is the wrong way. And some of these organizations will survive, others won't. You can also merge back into those, you can merge two organizations together. So that's about it in general. So what I hope I'll be able to say when this is implemented is that you don't need to worry about this organization. Nothing is under control. You can start, the idea is you can start, you have an idea, you can start the organization, you can give yourself the founding contribution, you'll hold all the reputation, but as people join in and contribute and code with you, design with you, and implement with you, and market with you, then they will get more and more reputation, and you will lose control over what you have started. And this is something that we want to happen. We want to lose control in a controlled manner. We want to give reputation to the people that we want to work with us. And so, hopefully, this will allow organizations to grow very quickly and very broadly, and to be much bigger than what we can do by ourselves. And what are we doing at the moment in the tactical sense, let's say? So first of all, we're mapping the space of decentralized resilient protocols. There are many protocols, or many ways to define a protocol that will do what we actually want to do. And every type of organization will tweak its protocol a bit differently. And we are building a system in which you can have your idea, start an organization, and use our building blocks to define the protocol that you'll be using to distribute value and reputation within your collaboration. We're developing the actual tools for decentralized collaboration to self-coordinate and bootstrap themselves. We're developing a platform for those DCOs to integrate with any existing service or tool. If there are 10,000 people working on a project, it's obvious that some of them will work with different services or applications that exist today. I can work with Trello, one of my collaborators can work with Asana. It doesn't mean that we need to use the same tool in order to contribute. I can finish a task in marketing in Trello, he can finish a task in marketing in Asana, and those two will stream automatically as contributions to what we are doing now. And other than that, we're nurturing the community around those DCOs that we want to take to start working with the tools that we are building. Some of the projects that we're working on at the moment. So one of them is a plugin for WordPress sites that will allow anyone on the site to let the public or community decide about the content inside their site. The simplest example is that we can have a tagline in our site, allow people to suggest new taglines, allow them to evaluate the taglines already suggested, and have those taglines changed all the time according to the best, to the highest ranked taglines in our site. This is a peer proof concept for several decentralized journalism projects that we are collaborating with. And eventually we want to allow a whole bunch of content to be edited together, written together, and published together. Meaning, for example, in Google Docs at the moment, you have permissions allowing people to change things, you can comment, or you can directly edit. We want to have all these things to happen in an algorithmic manner, letting the machine decide what to do, letting the protocol decide what to do. If I offer lots of corrections and the community like those corrections and they enter the systems, and I'll have a larger vote when offering new changes. Another small tool we built is Chessmates. Is a chess game that a large group of people can play single hand. Anybody can suggest a move. Anybody can evaluate the moves of the other players, and automatically a move is being chosen every time. Reputation is dynamic. You get tokens for suggesting the good moves. You have to pay tokens if you're suggesting bad moves and spamming the system. Anyway, this is a tool for us to actually play around with our protocols and test them and see how they behave under different parameters. Another thing we've done, we built a client for Slack and a protocol service that interact with each other to add a layer of decentralized collaboration on top of Slack. So what we allow them to do is we allow a Slack team to actually define channels as projects. Each channel is a project, and in that project have its own tokens, its own reputation, allow people to contribute to that project, to evaluate the contributions done to that project. We are now building an API to integrate into that automatically changes from GitHub, from Trello, from Twitter. So, for example, if I do a commit of code in GitHub, this will automatically enter the system as a contribution. This contribution will be declared in the Slack channel of the project, and I'll be able to evaluate it through there. And this is one of the things that if you like to integrate again, if you use Slack and you want to integrate your project into such a system, I'll do that. Contact us. Again, other than just that, and if you'd like to hear more about what we do, if you'd like to, again, to connect your project to our system, we are more than glad to collaborate with anyone on anything that has anything to do with decentralization. I'd like to thank the amazing team that I'm working with, and Adam here is one of the team. And Matan and Primavera are also handling lots of of talks during this month, so if you're in any of these places and want to meet or want to hear more about what we do, most of these talks are much longer than mine, so you can hear more detail and more technical data about it.